I'd like to call to order the Miami Valley West work session for Wednesday, June 14th at 7 p.m. I guess I could do it in the regular meetings.
Work session.
Let's go around the table. Does anybody have any questions on 1 through 13? Actually, 1 through 14.
So maybe a question on number 6. So just so I understand it, this is, they're asking us to, what, maybe explain what that means to me.
So Myra, could you please chime in there and give it a good explanation?
The Skylar app?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. They have proposed entering into a pre-closing construction agreement. Agreeing to indemnify and hold harmless a school district for any claims, injuries, or losses that arise that would allow them to go in and start working to prepare the school building for their school year prior to July 7th, which is the date for the final hearing in the Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas. And they've agreed to add the school district as a named insured on a certificate of general liability insurance.
Are there any risks to the district by doing that or allowing them to go in there before technically they actually own it, or if they sign this? Do you recommend us, I guess your recommendation as solicitor, would you recommend that
The agreement would essentially release the school district from any liability related to any type of work that they do. So we reviewed the agreement and we think it's a valid agreement that would protect the district if anything were to happen.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Does anybody else have any other questions on that? Myra, would I be out of line to ask if we could amend it to have workers' comp added to that?
No, you can make that. You can
I'm
ask for
not
that. It'd
allowed,
be,
am I allowed to make a motion as board president? For that, I would have, or would I have?
If not, I would like to add a motion to add.
well, do we
workers'
want to do
comp.
that in the regular meeting or in the work? We're still in the work session now.
Correct.
So, right.
Okay, the
Mr.
regular
Dabascus.
meeting. Okay.
Anything else? Well, Mr. Whittiak, I do have a question on number 9.
Mhm.
Could you please go through your budget? And the best you possibly can with all the details and bells and whistles.
Okay, the biggest changes for this year's budget are the new positions. There has been 2 additional kindergarten teachers, 2 additional elementary teachers that will be funded with Title II money, 2 additional autistic support teachers that year 1 will be paid with excess money. There will be 4 additional aides for those 2 autistic support classrooms. It does include no tax increase. And the number is much higher than it has been in the past because I have budgeted the entirety of the ESSER money remaining, even though some of that will likely be spent in the following budget. I just put it all in for now because after June 30th of 2024, we only have 3 additional months to spend that money.
So just the future budgets or next year will go down around the 90, 80.
Yes, it'll be between probably 85 and 90 in the future without the ESSER money.
Thank you.
And these budget numbers represent operating budget. Is capital in here?
The only capital improvements are the ESSER project. And I mean, Frank has his projects in there as well. but they're, limited in scope. If you-
Frank, could you elaborate a little? What's the limit in scope? Frank, could you answer that at all or no? I don't mean to put you on the spot, Frank.
Are you talking about the Esser's project?
No, your non-ESSER items that you had in your budget sheets to me. I understand that we wound up cutting the roofs for those two buildings, but essentially every other item you gave me was part of the final budget. If you want to discuss any of those.
Okay, yeah. Some of the projects that we're looking at, beyond the roofs that we're looking at would be, doing some locks in the buildings, rekeying some locks, that need to be done. Working on, some, let's see, I'm just trying to think what's in that. The roofs were the big things. God, I got a bunch of stuff. I can't.
I know I put you on the spot and I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
there's
do
just a
that.
bunch of stuff in there, in that budget, but the big items were the two roofs. But it's a lot of small, different things, like, working on, generators, working on, fire alarm panels,
Okay.
that kind of stuff that's in there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So there is a little bit in there.
Tom, how much is in here for capital expenditures
Outside of ESSER's and outside of his?
outside of Esser's?
Well, the maintenance, I can tell you what the maintenance budget is. Hang on, is that capital? Is maintenance capital?
Depends on what was in.
I don't think we actually have the capital budget or the capital account.
2 million.
I mean, the operation and maintenance budget total is about $6.5 million. Of that, for capital projects, I would say would probably be less than $1 million.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and Tom, it appears, I mean, I think he's asking about a capital budget. There's really not a technical capital budget. There are two capital accounts, Fidelity Capital that you're showing with a balance of 340,576.81 ending May. And First Keystone with 2,456,403. And I think what's more important for the board to know is that that's basically the district's total capital reserve. There's not a true working capital budget. There are requests that the Director of Building and Grounds made that Tom has included in the maintenance budget, and we met, and I remember cutting the roofs and different things out. But if you're talking, Bill, about big ticket items, there's not a capital budget. There are two capital accounts with not a lot of money for what needs to be done.
Yeah, we have a lot of small little projects in there that are kind of choppy, 20,000, 40,000. But the big items were the roof at the wellness center and the roof at central office. Everything else is just small items. Since I was looking for probably $400,000 for that, didn't pick a bunch of other stuff that if you looked at the site log analysis that was done, could have done quite a bit of items on that or the 400,000 if we were to, just not do the roofs and do something else on there. We have a lot of smaller projects going on, changing clocks in all the buildings that could be $60,000, but there's a bunch of smaller projects like that. The work that we have going on with the air handlers in the high school and the work we have going on in this building in Third Avenue, a lot of it's going to be a bunch of overlap in all the buildings. So we have to watch what we do in the buildings until those projects are done. So we just don't get clashing with some of the other projects we want to do over the next year and a half.
So this May 31 report, Tom, showing 340,500 and 2,456,000. That will carry over into the budget? That's surplus carrying over?
I'm sorry, what number were you discussing?
They're
Capital monies.
they're just account, they're their account balances,
Mhm.
those numbers have basically carried with us since we've come on the board because
Good, so.
we've not drawn down on them. But again, it's important that that's your pot of money for capital reserve projects, not clocks, locks, anything like that, but. for-
And it's not earmarked for
Correct,
anything, right?
It's that's our capital reserve.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to
It's no sense.
go sideways on
No.
this, but I just need to understand. So there's roughly $3 million that possibly can carry forward from this year to the incoming school year.
Right, and that's
You
not
said
part of,
there's six
that's,
point,
that's not part of the general fund budget.
okay,
Right.
that's separate. Within the 6.5 that you said, there was about $1 million for projects.
I have to look at
I'm
Frank's
not-
sheets. I don't have
okay.
them with me, so I don't,
I actually think, Tom, they're less than $1 million
okay,
because we started up around that number.
all right.
And when the roofing projects were removed from the two buildings, it knocked them down considerably.
Yeah, Frank gave me an itemized list and I just don't have it with me, so.
And I appreciate, I don't, and the itemized list that's secondary. I guess I'm just looking, we sit here month after month talking about buildings in disrepair, items that need to be done. And I think as we look at this budget, we better take a hard look at solid capital expenditures outside of what Esser's is contributing to. We know we have projects that Esser's is funding to some degree, probably not completely, and we'll have to come up with some money if we want to do all those projects. But above those, Frank, there's lists, and we're not looking at clocks. We're looking at structural, we're looking at things that buildings we either need to start paying attention to and do something different about, or go in a different direction altogether. So that's why I'm asking the questions. And if it means we need to look at perhaps suggesting some sort of a tax increase to dedicate to capital improvements, maybe this board needs to consider that. I don't know. I just wanted to understand the numbers here so I can make some decisions or know that I'm clear on what I'm looking at. So I appreciate your the information.
Can you earmark tax money for capital? I didn't think so.
Well, the only way I'm saying you would do it is if you truly had a capital budget, you'd say those dollars are going into the capital budget.
And you could, okay, that's, I just was wondering, yep, thank you.
My only concern, one concern with this budget is when we had our meeting with SiteLog, they requested with our red light, yellow light, green light, asset management. We try to budget somewhere around $3 million a year. Currently, we're not budgeting anything.
And Rick, I was going to point that out as well. It was asked by either Bill or Brian, our real budget, less the Esser's money, is $88,978.97. And we've over the last 2 years, we've been able to define what our operating needs are, and we've been able to get a handle on this budget. And through the work of Tom and our committees, we've put a budget in front of everyone tonight that doesn't contain a tax increase, and that meets our operating needs. We can pass this budget and walk out of here and think that we've done something good for the district, but we haven't. There are, as Rick mentioned, the red, yellow, and orange report, green also. There are so many compelling capital needs, not wants, but needs for this district. And the news appears to be, the gravity of it appears to be getting worse as we get closer to these meetings that, you know, we don't have enough ESSER's money to meet the projects that have been established thus far. We don't have the $3 million set aside, and not $3 million aggregate, $3 million annual over a 10-year period. So I think we need to have that last meeting with SiteLog. I believe that's next week,
Next Thursday,
next
this
Thursday.
22nd, Mr. Todd?
And
That's correct.
it's going to be my recommendation at our regular meeting following this work session that we table the reading of the budget. Because again, if we just pass the budget as is tonight, we've done okay, say, we did okay for our operating needs, but we have done absolutely nothing for capital. And we've worked for 2 years now trying to define an operating budget, and we're there, but we have done nothing to scratch the surface of capital. And before we pass a final budget, I think we need to take a more in-depth look at that. And I think that the board needs to deliberate and discuss, you know, what they feel is best for the district. Do we just move along with what we have here? Or do we take a real long, hard look at, we have a lot of work in front of us to improve our buildings, our grounds, and our facilities from a capital standpoint.
I completely agree. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense, and see what SiteLock says,
But
what
we
they
can't-
come with.
We're still in a work session, but I'm just saying, like,
No, I understand.
I'm going to put a motion out
I agree.
during our meetings that we should table.
Mr. Capus, one of the bigger items that we have in there, you know, thinking about it, is over $100,000 to rebuild the elevator in this building,
Yes,
plus the doors in the height, with the elevator doors in high school. So there are some decent capital projects, you know, coming out of there. If I have it in front of me, there's probably 15 different items.
good. That's good. And Frank, that's great, but it still doesn't address a lot of this. You know, you sat in that meeting, you heard them. So, Mr. Keating, I agree 100%. I don't think our budget is completely there yet. I mean, it's close. And Tom, I think you did a great, phenomenal job. I just think looking at the buildings, we really need to think a little bit harder. And I thank you for this budget. It's perfect. It's
And
really
this,
good job.
this assessment from SiteLog is about a month old, I would say.
Yes.
And it's been changing right up until today, and it's not changing for the better financially. So again, with the latest changes that have been presented today, I just think that the board needs to really evaluate the seriousness of our capital needs in this district.
I agree. With that being said, Paul, if we don't pass a budget this evening and we hold that budget, this board would have to come to a decision on June 20th and advertise that final budget for 10 days, I believe, so we can
Well,
pass it on the
I-
30th.
I think
The advertisement's generic. You don't need to have the final number in the advertisement. You just have to have the date that you're going to adopt the final.
As
budget.
long as we adopt the budget by June 30th, I believe we're okay, right?
Yeah, and we have already had a budget on display since May.
Right.
So the only item that's outstanding would be advertising the date that we would adopt the final budget.
On the school district website, like you normally would.
You have to post it for 10 days.
Right, and we typically put it in the paper, so we still have time to do all that.
Correct.
Mhm.
So we'd have to pretty much come to terms on the 10th or the 20th, correct?
Isn't there already a meeting on the 28th
There is a meeting on the 28th. Well, I didn't call it yet, but that was
potentially? So
essentially, there's a meeting.
that might be a potential date for.
I mean, Rick, just my recommendation. More than likely, what we find out from SiteLog again next Thursday is going to be a lot to digest. I don't feel comfortable with, you know, walking out of that meeting at at 5:30 and coming out here and making a final decision for the coming school year on everything that's been presented. So I'd like to get the information from site log next week and probably the 28th, hold our final meeting to decide how we're rolling with this budget.
That works for me. Myra, what I am going to ask of you, of your team, is to confirm the legality of it. When the advertisement portion, the whole 9 yards. So and please follow up with, Mr. Whittiak, make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, please.
Absolutely.
Anything else on the budget? Anyone? All right, I guess we can move into our regular agenda. I'd like to call to order the regular June meeting of the Wyoming Valley West School District for Wednesday, June 14, 2023 at 7:30 PM. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Pazinski. Mr. Damascus.
Here.
Mr. Hardwick,
Here.
Mr. Keating,
Present.
Mr. Usavage. Mr. Perfetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Here.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Here.
Mr. Camus.
Here. We have a quorum. A moment of silence followed by the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to announce that there was an executive session held prior to our work session to discuss personnel items. I would also like to announce that there was a committee meeting with SiteLog IQ about our Essers 3 project that will be more to follow. As Mr. Keating alluded, we have a meeting next week. Out of our executive session, I would also like to amend this evening's agenda to accept the resignation of Ron Musto. May I have a motion or a motion? Is that how you do it?
No, because you have to let the public comment first. So
So I have to put it on the agenda first.
you're amending the agenda, put it like it's the last item, whatever that number is.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we amend the agenda
Right.
to include consideration of the resignation letter that was submitted by Coach Musto, the baseball coach.
Motion by Mr. Hardwick. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Damascus. On a roll call, please.
Item number 18.
Mr. Damascus.
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
So new number 18, yes.
Mr. Keating,
That's right.
Yes.
Mr. Perfetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes. Superintendent's
So just.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, for the other, do we need to announce the amendment for number 6 to add the workers' comp line in there? Is that, do that now, or we could do that later?
We would do that now, Brian.
So I'd like to make a motion for item number 6 to add the clause in there for the workers' compensation, to make sure we're covered for that. And
To make sure that they can provide proof of workers' compensation.
right.
Right.
So I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Damascus. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cassatt. On a roll call, please.
Mr. Damascus.
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Perfetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes. Good, Brian?
Yes, thank you.
Superintendent's comments, Mr. Tosh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Camus. No real comments tonight, other than I would like to publicly thank the high school administration with Principal Mrs. Carey, all of the teachers for the time that they put in preparing last week's graduation ceremony. I know I'm biased when I say this, but I think the Wyoming Valley West School District graduation is as good a ceremony as there is in the area. And unfortunately, you usually think you may deal with a little rain when you're considering canceling it. And unfortunately, we had a first that wildfires canceled it. But I think the job that the teachers did, and I want to publicly acknowledge one of the teachers up there by the name of Pat Heffron, who's our Grand Marshal. Mr. Heffron runs that ceremony every year, and he does a phenomenal job. He's really good at what he does. He does it with class, and he really is good at what he does. So I'd like to thank Mr. Heffron, all the teachers. I'd like to thank Mr. Camus and Ms. Cassatt for coming out and handing out the diplomas. But I think all in all, despite a little bit of drizzle early on, I thought it was a great ceremony. The custodians did a great job preparing the field. Mr. Rivera and his staff, really an outstanding effort. And I should mention along those lines, we did use the state-of-the-art metal detectors for the first time. And I could tell you that prior to last year at about 10 to 6, when we had the old metal detectors, the line went all the way around to the LIU with parents coming into the stadium. The night last Thursday of graduation was terrific, right through with the state-of-the-art metal detectors. So I'd like to thank the school board for that purchase. And in general, now that we've concluded the year, to run a school district over the course of 180 days, you need the cooperation of the school board, the administrators, the teachers, the nurses, the support staff, the aides, the PCAs, the custodians, the CAF staff at RMARC was terrific, our bus drivers, everyone in the central office, and even our crossing guards that are out making sure that the students are safe crossing the street every day with inclement weather and all of the other variables they put up with. But again, I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to the school year. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. But again, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you, Mr. Camus.
Thank you, Mr. Tosh. Statements from interested citizens. On our list is Kate Prokrivka.
Hi, my name is Kate Pokrivka and I live in 44. Just two things tonight. First is about the budget. Hanover, Nanticoke, Lake Lehman, Dallas, and Wilkes-Barre area all approved a budget without increasing property taxes. And I understand that some of these buildings are a little dilapidated, but I'm hoping that you could get an account for capital improvements without increasing our property taxes. Second, I'm hoping the board will consider reinstituting the dress code for the next academic year. I understand why you got rid of it, and I actually appreciate it because pants and collared shirts were expensive, especially when kids. Do you want to tell me that you're
I forgot. I was going to say it in work session. I totally forgot, and I totally agree with your statement there.
Okay. Do I need to go on and make my
No,
argument?
please do. Please
Okay.
continue.
I will. Okay. So I understand why you got rid of it. You saved us money when the kids were home from school, learning online and in that hybrid model. But now they're back 5 days a week. And I understand that actual crime is down according to the SRO reports, but I think that the level of disrespect between students and teachers remains kind of high. And I'm not saying that a collared shirt is going to stop somebody from saying the F word or telling off a teacher, but good grooming and neatness has been linked with better behavior in school. Studies suggest that a dress code increases students' self-esteem, which has been linked with student success. A dress code also spares students unnecessary peer competition with clothing and the "what should I wear today" worry. Finally, regarding a dress code with safety, the dress code makes students more easily distinguishable from kids who enter the school who don't belong. And you guys had a problem with that this year. So I just hope you reconsider it. Thank you.
I totally agree with you. I wanted to bring up work session. I forgot. I actually wanted to bring up was the cell phone policy too as well.
Great.
I think it's something that the board should really consider. Absolutely.
Cool.
And I agree with
Thank
you
you.
100%.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Perfecto.
Rick, could I ask a question? With the dress code, did we do away with it or did we just lax it because of the COVID?
You are correct.
Oh, okay.
Laxed it.
Well, we actually have it on the books yet.
We
Yeah,
do.
we still have the dress code, because I can tell you, Mrs. Carey, every day up at that high school, and I know Mr. Bond here, are enforcing it as much as they can. We did tone it down. I know right after COVID, we allowed jeans. We said as long as the jeans weren't ripped, that type of thing. But it is still there to a certain extent, not like the first year, that it was. So I do agree with you there.
Anything else?
What needs to change then? There is a policy in place.
All we have to do is enforce it, I guess.
So, Mr. Tosh,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, what needs to change then if there's a policy in place?
Well,
for a
I
dress
think what
code,
I-
how will we move forward?
Well, I think what we would have to do is, we'd have to make a decision. Are we going back to the first year we did it, where we're eliminating jeans, that type of thing? Or are we going to keep the current dress code policy? Now, I know I held a meeting with some of the administrators. I know some board members did towards the end of the year, and we talked about one or two items that the administrators talked about potentially getting rid of certain clothing, that type of thing. But I think we would have to make a determination if we want to go back to a full dress code as we did in the past, where we eliminate jeans and that type of thing. Because we amended it and right after COVID, we loosened it a little and we said the denim, as long as it's well tailored, you didn't have rips and tears in it that are some of the fashion styles now, as long as they weren't wearing that was acceptable.
But there's half shirts and shorty shorts going
The
on.
half shirt
at the
was
high
one of the
school, so
real
I
concerns
think you have.
the
to-
administrators wanted to get rid of.
That
Yes,
really is. a
right.
problem.
Hoods too. Hoods are.
that was the other one too. And I know we said we were still going to have, we were going to continue to have a meeting with that from the last one that we did have.
So Mr. Tosh, really, Mr. Hardwick's questions still stand. What is our next step if this board just put it on the agenda and?
Yes, I would
and
recommend that.
advertise the amendments?
Yes, I would recommend that. And
So-
I can meet with the administrators again, just to touch base with them and the teachers that we met with.
So
And we bring a recommendation to you.
could we please have that on our next?
Yep.
Meeting, please, for our
Mhm.
agenda.
And so everyone's clear, we don't meet in July.
That's
We're
June
meeting-
28th.
We're meeting on June 28th, to be clear that you want it on the June 28th agenda.
I think it would give parents enough time
Yeah, because we
to,
don't meet in July or August.
we meet in
We meet in
August, twice in
Oh,
August.
no. Do we?
June 28th agenda,
You mean only get a month off?
our last agenda.
So it is I think that would give parents enough time to try to find
Agreed.
some of these uniforms, and it's gonna be challenging. I mean, my kids went through the uniform and I liked it. So. What was that? I can't. All right, and this is Mr. Shook, right? Doug and Mia Shook, please. This can stop.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Doug Shook, math teacher at the high school and also FBLA club at the high school co-advisor. I'm here just to give a little public thanks for the last 2 months of my life. I think it aged me so much, but it's a good thing. So I'm just going to refer to this because I'm a little nervous right now. I'm not going to lie.
Don't be nervous.
Oh, thank you. Dear Wyoming Valley West Board of Education and Administrative Team, a little less than 2 months ago, 3 of our most talented and respected seniors from the Wyoming Valley West High School participated in the Future Business Leaders of America State Leadership Conference Marketing Competition in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The team of Isaac Bolin, George Hebda, and Maxwell Saporito placed 3rd in the state out of 126 total competitors. These 3 students first completed a 100-question objective test, followed by an in-person presentation before a panel of judges. Placing 3rd in the state has qualified this team to compete in the FBLA National Leadership Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, during the last week of June. Throughout their time at Wyoming Valley West, each of these 3 senior students have shown what it means to be a Spartan and have represented the district with class, humility, and professionalism. All 3 of these gentlemen have been members of FBLA, as well as several other clubs and organizations at the high school. In the fall of 2023, Isaac will be attending Penn State University Schreier Honors College to study music composition. George will be attending Widener University to study pre-law, and Maxwell will be attending Lehigh University to study engineering. Once they learned their fate that evening in Hershey, their attention turned immediately to attending and competing at the national level. They wanted to know what it was going to take to get them to Atlanta. To be honest, I had zero clue. Where we have had students who have qualified for the NLC in the past, it has been almost 20 years since students were so determined to participate in such an event. After several conversations with Mrs. Carey and Mr. Tosh, a plan of action came together to help map out what it was going to take to help get them to Atlanta. A fundraising plan was developed. Then, in true Wyoming Valley West fashion, the school and community came together to help with this cause. Tonight, I would like to thank the following local businesses, school clubs, and individuals for their contributions: Fellerman and Saramboli, City Mark Federal Credit Union, Aramark, WVW FBLA, Tabitha and Ty Miller, Kevin Hetrick, Matt Bradley and 75 Degree West Marketing, WW Class of 2023, WW High School Physics, WW Gamers Club, WVW High School Journalism, Mr. Sean Kelly, Mr. Rob Cardone, Mr. Jonathan Kamor, Ms. Holly Pick, Mr. and Mrs. Robert and Allison Button, and Wyoming Valley West High School Math. It is because of these generous donations, I'm proud to say we are fully funded and ready to attend the conference in little over a week. Thank you to the entire Wyoming Valley West School Board and administrative team for your support through this entire process. Also, thank you to each of the parents involved for their patience while what at times, and this is no joke, seemed like we were building the plane as we were flying it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shook, very much. And thank you for taking the time to afford our students this opportunity to compete in something like this. It's very, very admirable.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Yep. Great.
James B.
Good evening, James Baldwin, West Wyoming. Just a couple of quick things tonight. I do parrot Kate's recommendation on the school uniforms. I think that definitely wouldn't hurt things, especially with the issues we were having with the increased amount of disciplinary issues in the district. I was hoping that you guys could answer just a couple questions. Just elaborate on number 8 on the agenda at some point. I don't know if you plan to, but just the contract with PSBA with Wyoming Valley West School District for the standard superintendent evaluation service. I was just curious what that service is and if it's a new service or if it's something that's done every year.
Pennsylvania School Board, Mr. Baldwin, puts out a template for an evaluation that has to be done on the superintendent every year. So we just contract with them to get that template.
Okay, so that's every year you do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
The board is just doing it in a little different format than what it's done in the past.
I should add, this is the first year that we're doing it. But again, they provide the template for us.
is maybe if you have an opportunity just to kind of explain like the benefits of that, like
So it's required by the Pennsylvania, the school, Pennsylvania it's required by the state that the board as a whole evaluates the superintendent. Mr. Tosh evaluates the administration and so on down the line. It is the board's job to evaluate Mr. Tosh,
I understand.
and that will be posted on our website.
Sort of like a human resource form that we use that's common within the state of other schools are using it as different parts of, if you ever done a review, you have your goals and objectives in the beginning of the year and then you rate them at the end of the year. And that's kind of what it is.
I would just add too, by using the PSBA form, it ensures that we're complying with all of the state, the state laws regarding superintendent evaluation, because there's certain laws we have to follow. So we can tweak it a little bit, but it's a good baseline to start with. So.
Thank you. And I was hoping that tonight you could follow up on something that was mentioned last meeting. I think Mr. Hardwick, you had the same question regarding the Pennsylvania Department of Education had wanted to have a meeting with the district regarding the number of suspensions of kids with IEPs. And there was supposed to be a meeting on that. So I was just hoping that if you had an opportunity just to kind of explain the outcome of that meeting with Department of Education.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Tosh.
Yeah, we haven't received any information since our last meeting as to a time and a place with that yet. As soon as we get it, we'll publish that.
Okay, so it had so that meeting has
Yeah,
not
nothing,
occurred yet.
nothing has transpired since the last meeting.
Thank you. And just the last thing is, I know there was mention about the cell phone policy, and I just was curious where the district was at and if there's been conversations about artificial intelligence and how that's going to impact schooling altogether, just with the advent of Chat GPT and other things similar to that. It's a very robust tool and it's free and it's something you can have on your phone. So if we have students having access to their cell phones, I don't know if anybody here has actually played with that technology. It's unbelievable. How fast and the questions you can ask, the complexity of the questions you can ask, and it'll spit that stuff right out to you. So I'm just curious if with all these changes in technology, especially artificial intelligence, if the school district is really going to consider maybe we shouldn't have the cell phone access to the kids so readily available, especially with the way technology is rapidly evolving.
We'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes from here. It's my opinion that we should have it.
You think the kids should have the cell phone?
We
I
haven't
do not
discussed
think
it yet.
I do not think the kids should have their cell phones. I think the bad outweighs the good.
Yeah, I agree with
by tenfold.
I agree with you.
So it's something that this board is going to have to discuss. Obviously, this is going to be a huge undertaking because we're going to have to find a district that's working with a good policy, try to write a policy and then adopt it.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, but it's the first. So it's first I brought it to the board.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to thank you all for your service and I hope you guys have a great summer. I appreciate everything that you guys do for the kids. I know we've had disagreements on certain things, but I know you guys work hard and I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Approve the regular minutes from the May 10th, 2023 board meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Ms.
Second.
Scott, second by Mr. Damascus. Roll call, right? Do a roll call. Roll call, please.
Mr. Damascus?
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick?
Yes.
Mr. Keating?
Yes.
Mr. Profetto?
Yes.
Mr. Majer?
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt?
Yes.
Mr. Kamis?
Yes. Committee reports, Mr. Damascus. Do you have anything this evening?
Really nothing on the athletic that we didn't already talk about. Just that we are starting up our, getting ready for our seasons for our fall sports. Anybody, usually there's Facebook groups on all of our sports that I've seen for football and other sports. So if you're looking for that information on how to join or find it, just do a search on Facebook and you'll probably find somebody. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Damascus. Mr. Keating, do you have anything this evening?
Only thing I'd like to comment on is we're moving forward, negotiating in good faith with the support staff union. And again, I don't want to report all gloom and doom with our budget because I think it's important to note that, you know, last year at this time, we had a $500,000 fund balance, and we now have a $5 million fund balance. So financially, we're moving in the right direction. We're doing the right things from an operational standpoint. However, we've only worked at defining our terms, again, operationally, and the capital needs of the district are overwhelming. And it's because of the overwhelming capital needs and the ever-changing increase in costs that we continue to get from site log that I would recommend, Mr. Camus, that we table voting on the budget this evening and save the vote for our last meeting of the year on the 28th.
So to Mr. King's point, when we come under that item, we would have to have a motion in a second, correct?
Correct. Table it.
Table. And that is item 9, right? So
And
would it?
14.
Yeah, item
so
9.
Do you have to do 9 through 14 then? You would have to do 9 through 14, correct?
I would say it all falls under, right?
Yes.
10 through 14
Tax
is separate
bills,
from
yeah.
9. What do you mean?
It's the
No state
millage.
tax.
That's the mills for each dollar of assessed value.
Oh, well, you're saying
They all
related to the budget.
these all are tied together on the budget.
Okay, so we can table 9 through 14. Right, I agree with that.
Anything else, Mr. Keen?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Hardwick.
Essers is ongoing. Plans been put forth, accepted. And we're gonna spend all of the money that we received on the relegated projects that can be done. Special education, we did not meet since our last meeting. There's nothing to report on new from there. So that would be it.
Thank you. Mr. Dickman's not here this evening. Buildings and grounds, as Mr. Hardwick just stated, we're moving forward. We're having a meeting next week with Essers, so it's gonna be pretty exciting here to come by the end of the month. All right, under general recommended action items, items 1 through 14, but I have
So 1 through 8.
1 through 8.
1 through 8 would be your motion, and we're gonna table 9 through 14.
Two separate motions.
So there's a motion on the floor to accept items 1 through 8 with the motion to table 9 through 14. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cassatt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dabascus,
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Profetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes.
Just a question. Did you have to say on number 6 how you amended it before you voted? Or-
So
Or
just
we
for
already
point of
talked-
clarity, Myra, I thought we did that before the public comment, so they had a chance to.
We did, we moved to amend it to require them to obtain and show proof of workers' comp insurance.
So
So-
number 6 is an amended.
It's an approval of
Yes.
the agenda item that we amended. That's my understanding.
That's my understanding as
Okay,
well.
just checking that we did it right. Yeah.
So items 1 through 8, do I have to do another vote on those or? I mean, technically you don't, do you?
No, we just did. No, we just did.
Staff recommended action items, so it'll be 1.
He did both, but out of caution, why don't we just
Certainly,
make
absolutely.
the second motion to table that?
Okay.
Or have somebody.
May I have a motion to table 9 through 14 as stated by Mr.
Mo-
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dabascus,
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Profetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes. All right, moving on. Staff recommended action items, 1 through 18 with the 18 addition to accept, Coach Ron Musto's resignation letter. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second by Mr. Majer and second by Mr. Perfetto.
Sir Camus, just for the record under question, I'd like to abstain from number 13. And I support all others under staff recommended items.
Noted abstention from Mr. Keating on item 13. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Damascus,
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Perfetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes. Finance recommended action items. Accept and approve the following as presented: bills for payment, the finance manager's report, and treasurer's report. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
By Mr. Keating, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hardwick. Roll call, please.
Mr. Damascus,
Yes.
Mr. Hardwick,
Yes.
Mr. Keating,
Yes.
Mr. Perfetto,
Yes.
Mr. Majer,
Yes.
Mrs. Cassatt,
Yes.
Mr. Camus.
Yes. Board members' comments. I'd like to go around the table. Does anybody have anything else to add?
I just wanted to add a thank you to the school district. I unfortunately had a death in my family and the support from the school was absolutely amazing. In fact, the Spartan Singers actually sang at the funeral, practiced for days, came in at 7 o'clock, stayed late. It was a half day of school. They did it. They didn't have to do it, but thank you very much to coach and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Damascus. Anyone else?
Mr. Camus, I'd like to commend Mr. Shook and the whole team that helped with the FBLA accomplishments. And I'd also like to thank Tom. Tom, we've come a long way with our reports from last year.
Absolutely.
I am, for one, I really appreciate the detail and the extra reports that we get. So we can sit up here and make informed decisions on the finances. I mean, where we were last year at this time to where we are today, nice work.
Thank you.
Mr. Perfetto, Mr. Majer, do you have
I'm good.
anything to add?
I'd like to add about graduation. It was a pleasant experience and it's great seeing the kids' faces. I recognized a lot of them from Dana Street and the superintendent's speech was the best. It was about a minute long. So kudos, Mr. Tosh.
It was too.
I learned.
And I gotta be honest, to Mrs. Cassatt's point, the smile on those children's faces made
Yeah.
everything worth it.
Yeah.
The faces, the smiles, it was amazing. It was really great. No, it was just, they were so happy. It was great to see. I do have a question from Mr. Whittiak. How are we making out on the Auditor General's report? Do we ever hear anything from them yet?
They sent a file right before the end of the day and I didn't have a chance to review it. It might be the draft of the final report.
Okay.
So we'll actually, if it is, I think we have to respond before they publish the final report.
Okay.
I think that's the flow of the step. So we would have to respond and then we'd have the final report. Our response would be in the final report.
Okay, perfect. And I would also like to add, the budgeting process this year and the extra reports is awesome. I really like it.
Thank you, thank you.
So it says here, our next scheduled work session will be, August 2nd. Here at 7 PM and our regular meeting will be August 9th. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?